Hello, welcome to the 17th day of January 2026. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation video, a live exercise that I do every morning at 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are detailed and explained in my book, Going Alone, which you can buy for free, or you can read for free at goingalone.org, or you can get from a bookstore if you like. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the challenges and opportunities that I met. I review the 8 objectives of my creed and one of the principles, and I prepare for the coming day. But first, disclaimer to let you know that this is a private journal done publicly. So, as such, being a private journal, I'm at liberty to discuss any topic I like for as long or as little as I like. I'm not beholden to any particular message or agenda other than the outline that I lay out in my little notebook every day, which I will review these in just a second. It's always the same thing. I basically do an introduction section, which I'm doing now. I review the last 24 hours. I go over my creed and I prepare for the coming day. Let me finish this intro section. I do want to welcome new subscribers to the channel. It's good to have you here. And a huge thank you to my subscribers, my members on YouTube, and my supporters on Patreon. I really do appreciate you. Uh, by way of actual disclaimer, I do reliably discuss the sensitive topic of death, particularly my own death, pretty much every day. So just a heads up if that's the case. Putting that disclaimer out there really helps. It helps to prevent the cards and letters that I often get when I forget to mention that. Talking about death seems to be very unsettling to folks, although it's a very important and useful topic for me to discuss. Okay, enough of the introduction part. Let's go over the last 24 hours. Yesterday, before I make these notes, I just have to set the stage for it. I'm starting to fall into my own new routine. Now, in the last week, I've made considerable effort to develop a new routine, actually laying out a weekly schedule, uh, showing what I'm doing through each part of the day. And I will say that that has been very helpful in starting to give a little bit of a foundation and structure to my life. It's interesting that I'm just now reading in Moby Dick the section of a chapter here titled about the whale skeleton, where Melville is outlining, in the guise of Ishmael, is outlining the structural anatomy of the whale, analogizing it to a ship. And it's funny that I just realized that I'm doing the same thing with my life now, laying out the structure and anatomy of my days, which it has been very helpful to identify what I'm going to be doing on an hour by hour basis pretty much throughout the day. It's really the only free time I have is a few hours in the afternoon. Otherwise, my day is pretty well structured and has become more structured since yesterday. This now getting into the some of the details here. The school that I work for did when they first hired me, they asked if I would be willing to host an English club for the school. I said I would, and they told me that it would probably fall on a Thursday, and they've come through and they've scheduled it for me. So I will now be working in addition to 2 hours, well, 2 45-minute sessions, so an hour and a half on Tuesday mornings. I will now be working another hour and a half on Thursday afternoons, which is interesting as I was kind of thinking about using Thursday evenings as a drinking night. I'm not much into drinking, but I really would like to enjoy a little nightlife, aka midnight diner, right? And seeing that I'll be in downtown Shizuoka every Thursday until the afternoon, maybe I can squeeze, every night going out for a drink on Thursday afternoons. That's an interesting idea. I don't know that I have the fortitude or constitution to do that. I'm just not really a drinker, but it's kind of like wanting to, like I always thought, I'd like to do a particular hobby or something like that. And, I'm not sure I really would enjoy that hobby, but it sounds like it would be fun. That's how drinking sounds like it would be to me. All right. So I covered that. Now I do want to point out that the main note that I have from yesterday was that it was a very peaceful day. I spent 2 hours in the garden doing some very hard work, rooting out the dwarf bamboo root structure. in the embankment where my garden meets the river. And that was a lot of work, a lot of heavy work, lifting and pulling. I had to take a shower afterwards to wash the soil off of me in midday. And I was surprised at how well I stood up. I sustained myself through the day with all of that. Uh, the reason that that's important to point out is that means that I think that my daily activities in the garden are building my constitution and my bodily strength to the point that I can sustain myself. It's not such a big effort. When I first moved back to Japan and bought this house, going out and spending an hour in the garden would wipe me out for the day. I can go out now and spend a full morning out there, and I'm in good shape. So, and I'm feeling good shape. I think that there's something very good in systemic and cardio and all the good words that you can think of to apply to a particular type of exercise, strength training, limbering the body up, sustaining the heart rate, and everything in a good, healthy gardening. Gardening seems to be a very good form of exercise. That said, one of the new routines that I'm going to introduce into my life beginning next week is Wednesdays at the local gym. We have the sports complex. We live very close to the Shizuoka Prefectural Sports Complex, which has a nice weight room and gym. And my neighbor and I are going to go there on Wednesday. And I would like to make that a new part of my weekly routine. I am going to do that. Do more lifting. There's one more note here that's interesting that I'll add, that I'll talk about with under the guise of the last 24 hours. And it was a thought that I had in the last 24 hours. And the note here says, sympathy for inertia. Strange title, huh? And what I simply mean by that is in my new life, I am gaining lots of changes, things that I, in some ways, I can't really talk with anybody about who wouldn't be in the similar life circumstance. And I experienced that on what was it, Thursday, when I had coffee with my friend Molly, and we were talking about some things, and I realized that I couldn't relate what I was experiencing to Molly because Molly's not retired, and it it was the type of change that I was experiencing that could only happen when one expires the ambitions in life. The primary things that we've lived our life all about: sustenance through career, education, sustenance, sustaining ourselves and our family through a career, raising a child. Those are the main things. When those things are all done, and we're left with our own devices, that opens up a new frontier of experience and thought. Not always very welcome. And I wasn't ready for it. I didn't see it coming, how difficult it was. And I was talking to Molly, and he's still in the workaday world, and he's blessed in that capacity, and he knows it. He knows it. He would be the first to tell me that. He would say that Molly told me quite plainly he wouldn't know what to do with himself otherwise. So I couldn't really share this perspective to someone who wasn't there yet. It would be an intangible thing, you know. It would be an alien thing, and sometimes it would be like a maybe like a woman trying to share what it's like to suffer menstrual cramps to a man. It's an abstract. Maybe that's a rather um, what's the word? A rather base comparison. But I'm trying to think of something that in the abstract doesn't really apply. You can only kind of kind of intellectually think, yeah, that must hurt, right? Uh, what it's like to be without, because Jim, we were talking, and Jim, like so many others that I've talked with about this, their response is to offer things to fill the vacuum. Here's something you can do. Here, try this. What's that? What about this? And the other thing. And I realize I have to stop and say, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's like trying to replace raising a child with, okay, you finish raising your kid. There's nothing that can replace that worthy endeavor, right? You can't fill a hobby can't take the place of the meaningful effort of raising a child. One just has to realize that meaningful effort is complete. There's other things that can sure fill the place that where that was, but it won't be the same. It's a square peg in a round hole. So the back circling back to the note here, it says sympathy for inertia. And what I mean by that is that whatever inertia being another candle. Mine's about to see if I can show you guys this. Oh, there, it just burned out. Oh, it's hot. Inertia being, ooh, almost burned my sweater. Inertia being the uh, whatever whatever it is that we've done in life, whatever momentum we have that carries us forward, whatever habits and routines and identity we've gained through the course of our life, it's hard to change that, or it's hard to adjust or to formulate something new once we're at a certain age, namely this age. Right? Whatever we've done in all of our lives becomes our inertia, and those things can change, like I said earlier, but it, it's hard to adjust. It's like having a spaceship on a trajectory away from the Earth, right? Once it's got all that momentum and that inertia on its path, if we decide that we want to change course from Alpha Centauri to Proxima Centauri, um, maybe a small deviation overall, but a tremendous amount of effort to alter that inertial course, let alone a wholesale change. So even though the suggestion might come through to make a change, doing so um, may take more energy than we have or than we want to expend. Just a thought that I had yesterday that I noted here, and all the more reason to in my book, Going Alone, a principle that I rarely talk about. It's interesting that I so rarely talk about it because it is the key element of the adventure in this book is the idea of a great life adventure. The thing that we do in life that becomes the centerpiece activity and experience of our life, whatever that might be. And I've in the book I recommend that the decade of the 20s is the after university, give ourselves 5 full years of some sort of a great life adventure. Just leave it all behind, leave the diploma with the mom and dad, and then head off and then go out and into the world and have whatever that adventure might be. And now I see at age 60 how important that is to do at a young age when we have the freedom of motion, the degrees of freedom, the lack of responsibility, hopefully, and the curiosity and the openness of mind to be able to more easily reposition our lives in the direction of whatever great adventure we want, which will then become part and parcel of the inertia that we carry with us for the rest of our lives. Enough about that. That was a worthwhile thought, though. I enjoyed it. Now, my creed consists of the following 8 objectives, which you can read about in Going Alone, in the chapter titled The Good Life, which, as I said, you can read for free at goingalone.org. Objective number 1 is to, at all times, be ready for death, having affairs, relationships, and life's work in good order. The second objective is to develop and maintain, is to make good use of my time. 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions. 5, to perform good actions relative to my values. 6, to recognize my true limits and true opportunities. 7, to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. And number 8, to achieve and maintain a state of balance. Let me read now from the book, principle number 2, the principle of reason. The principle of reason on page 252 of the hardbound edition. Sub-principles: honesty, objectivity, doubt, and humiliation. And I penciled something in here. I guess that would be a suggested sub-principle that I wanted to add: triage Interesting. That makes sense. Kind of wish I would have added that in, but I won't. That'll have to add as a footnote in my own personal copy. Here's a quote from Aristotle. The life of reason is best and pleasantest, since reason, more than anything else, is man. So too, this life is also the happiest. Reason is my first instrument of reconciling hypothesis with truth. To be effective, I must be honest with myself and others regarding what I know and do not know, and make pains to view the world objectively, without coloring reality too much with imagination fortified of want or need or fear or the normalizing pressure of authority, tradition, and unfounded consensus. Doubt is my default stance and starting point for every new venture of inquiry, and humiliation at my own realized folly, the surest sense that I am on the right track of correcting my own wrongs. Reason at its best is a tool of self immolation, turned first inward as I seek to burn away the chaff and waste of unprincipled living, and then outward in resistance of our species, lest worthy answers to the mysteries of life. All the more reason, excuse me. Another principle in my book is called the season of philosophy, which suggests that inspiration and ideas come to us in particular seasons of life, and it's important to write them down, record them in some way while the moment happens, as we may not be able to do it again later. And that description of the principal reason is an example of that. It's precisely what I wanted to say when I was thinking of the idea and thinking of adding this principle to the creed and then thus the book. And I know now that I couldn't write that anymore. That those words that I just read could only have been written at the time that I was writing the book. At that season and stage of life that has passed, my inertia has carried me to new territory that I could never circle back. As for today, well, we're going to go this morning to downtown to play a ball game, Boca, with my sister-in-law's coworkers. She works at a bank, and they have a game, and she enlisted my wife and I to come join them. Their team. We're going to go play. After all, Yumiko and I are the champions of our neighborhood. Our teams respectively got first and second place in our neighborhood Boca Challenge this last autumn. 3 comments. Other than that, it's a Saturday, so I'm just going to enjoy the day. And the temperature appears to be 2 degrees and about 65% humidity. There's a comment from Robert. Hi, Robert. Robert says, hi, Kurt. Currently -9 degrees Celsius. Wow. 57% humidity with an air quality of 30. Good quality air in Napanee, Ontario, Canada. That's cold, though. Wow. Tim says, good morning. Weather check. Hi, Tim. Weather check for the UK at 8:34 p.m. is 5.8 degrees Celsius and 94% humidity. A dark morning. Finally, some sunny spells this afternoon. Great at last after all that stormy weather. Robert says hello to Tim. Tim says hello to Robert. Sarah says good morning, Kurt, Robert, and Tim, and a little wave. Robert says hello to Sarah. Tim says hi to Sarah. Tim says, I guess the biggest part of being retired now for almost 3 years is it's helped me to find an inner peace and certain contentment. Having said that, there's undoubtedly something missing being away from the working world. Retirement is very much being in a bubble, a select club, good in some ways, but not in others. It's like a certain detachment, hard to explain. Precisely, Tim. I mean, goodness gracious. I was saying earlier about being able to relate the experience of this life to others that are in it. And what you just said is exactly that. I mean, before entering the retired world, it's in the abstract, right? We can reference some blocks of time we may have had freedom, or maybe a sabbatical of sort in during life, but it's nothing quite like having that worthy activity of a career complete, and then left with the bubble being the detachment, the bubble. Right? Exactly. Have you noticed, Tim, also how so many of us in this retirement state are kind of at a distance from those who are still in the midst of it? There's an old couple that I meet every day. They don't know I'm retired, I don't think. Two women that I meet every day, and they barely. They were always so busy. They're well into their 80s, and they walk every morning. I see them when I come back from the radio exercise, and every morning they're chatting away as they go by, and I have to say good morning to them in Japanese to get their attention. Otherwise, I don't think they even notice I exist. That bubble kind of we kind of exclude ourselves in one way, which could be dangerous, but it's also very freeing. Like me out in my garden. Something about my garden. I mean, I couldn't have picked a better place for a garden in the universe. It is up a little stream at the end where nobody goes, but I'm close enough to the community. There's a road just on the way that I can hear people walking by on the bridge, and I can see them go by, but very few people actually turn their head and look up. Otherwise, they might see me up there. I feel at once disconnected yet touched by the world around me by virtue of where my garden is. My garden is not open to the world, but it is connected to it. All the more reason that I can feel like I'm in that aforementioned bubble, like you said. Elvina says, "Hello, Elvina. Good morning, all. Good afternoon, all. Good morning." And Tim says hi to Elvina. Elvina says hi to Tim and Robert. Robert says hello to Elvina. Sarah, hi Sarah. Good morning. I think I already said hi. And Sarah's saying hi to Elvina. Elvina says, it's warmer here today, only -3°C, but cloudy and likely more snow over the next few days. Tim says, definitely, it's that bubble feeling, but I could appreciate that for some in retirement, that bubble and disconnection could become a very lonely place, I guess. I think you're right. I think you're right. And I think it kind of, remember, I was just talking a while ago about the inertia of life. I think it would depend on what our inertia was like before we retire. If we had a very social inertia, if our inertia was largely based on the society of our connections and peers at work, or maybe our identity as parents raising dependent children, maybe that would be very lonely. But if the type of person that developed an inertia that was kind of independent of that, hey, this is maybe I'm figuring something out for myself. Maybe I just have to do the hard work of putting together a new inertia, which I've already begun to do by virtue of laying out a new structure to my days. Thank you, Tim. Your back and forth here is helping me. I knew this. Okay, hold on, let me make a note to myself to do today. Work on new inertia. Thank you, Tim, for pointing that out. Elvina says, have a great weekend, all. Thank you, Elvina. I hope you have a great weekend as well. And with that, I think I finished. It's always great to catch up with everybody. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, whether it's the beginning or the end, and a terrific upcoming weekend. I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. But as for me, maybe tonight I will die in my sleep. Take care, Tim. You have a great day too. Bye bye.